Aloha, Richard Halverson here. This is ITS148, and today is March 3rd. Let me share my screen. And so it looks like we are in, we finished up assignment 1 last time, and I still have to post up that video. I'll do that after this one. So I guess we've done chapter 12 pretty good. Let's just dive into chapter 13 since we are behind. We should be starting recursion this week. I guess I'll do another two class session next week. Let's see. So the and I'll try to get to the labs today. Okay, so here we're talking about derived classes, and that's where you define some kind of base class that's got a bunch of stuff in it, but not everything, and then you define other classes that start with the base class and add stuff. So like you can have a base class of a plant, and the plant's got whatever a plant has, leaves, stem, it's maybe not a good plant. There's trees, there's bushes, there's flowers, and so there's certain things in common that all plants have, but then there's a bunch of things that are maybe specific to trees, specific to flowers, and then of course there's different instances of trees and different instances of flowers and so on. So that's what we're talking about in this chapter. We derived classes. And so here, for example, you can have an item that's got a name and a quantity, let's say, and the items also has it. So you can here's a method that you can use to once. Okay, so you have this class called an item, and then you create an instance of it. So so you have one of them, and you might name it, and you might add a quantity value. And then it's also nice to have this display method so you can, display out the information about that particular item. And then you can, for example, create another class called produce. And produce has everything that item has, but produce also has, like, maybe, for example, an expiration date. And so here's a method to set that. Here's a method to get it, to see what it is, and so on. So here, produce is a class that was derived from item. And so a derived class explicitly calls the base class's constructor. So to start out with, this is the derived class. It's gonna first it's gonna call the base class constructor to create that, and then I guess you can think of it as adding on to that is this additional attributes. It could be methods or variables or whatever, properties. And so any class may serve as a base class. No changes to the definition of the class are required. You can always define a class, and in the parentheses you put a base class, and then that new class starts with everything that the base class starts with, and then adds from there. An instance of the derived class type has access to all the attributes, of the derived class. An instance of the derived class type has access to all the attributes of the derived class, as well as the class attributes of the base class by default. But the derived class can override the base class methods if you want to. And to do that, you just simply create a new method, for example. It's a method. The derived class just creates a new method with the same name that it wants to override, and then it's the derived classes method of that name that's called, and not the base classes method of that name. So like display would be something that you might want to override. All right, and here's the unified modeling language notation, and you can look that up in Wikipedia. And so this is a way of describing what we just talked about. We have a base class called item, which has a name and a quantity and these methods. And then you have a derived class called produce, which contains all this stuff, but it also adds expiration and these two methods. What is this here? Let's see what this is. Many members. Okay. Produce is a derived class, and it's got these things. I guess it doesn't really show examples of these things here. All right. Inheritance is the concept when you are talking about that those attributes or methods that come from the base class. The derived class inherits the base class attributes and methods and so on. So you go through this to make sure you understand it. Finish these participation activities. What is this now? Derived classes. So let's just see what this does. Let's do one of these. Type the programs up. Okay, so we start out with, we create an instance of a car, and a car is a vehicle, but a car also has a I guess it just has this added method here. So and then so we say set speed. See, where are the prints? So here we're printing, and so here we set the speed to 35 miles an hour. So that's using this method. Sets it to 35, and then we're going to print the car speed, which is calling on print speed, which is this, which prints out this. So I guess what would print would be 35. Enter. Oh, I'm sorry. Print car speed. It's going to print out. It's going to say moving at. Yes. So when this is called, it's this that's called. First thing it does is it prints out this moving at colon space. It doesn't print out a return, a new line, but it calls this method, which is this method, which is printing out whatever this is, and this was assigned earlier to 35. So I'm going to say this is the answer, and oh, good deal, I got it. So you can do the next ones. What's this one? Basic inheritance. Set course student's last name to Smith, age in years to 20, and the ID number to 9999. The sample output is going to be that. And what are we supposed to do? My solution goes here. Okay, so we have this, we have a couple classes here. We have this, okay, so course student is an instance of this, which is that. And then we're supposed to do something. Oh, we're supposed to set that. So when we print out print all, we end up printing the name of the student and the age of the student, right? The name of the student, the age of the student, and where's the ID? Ah, here's the ID. Okay. Print all does this, creates this output string, and it returns the output string. Okay. Okay. All right. We're supposed to put the assignment statements. Okay, so I guess it would be course student dot ID equals 9999 and course student dot wait a minute, I'm doing this wrong because I should use this method here to do it. So I'm going to use the method set ID equal to this. I'll test if I do it right. This is going to be that sets this ID. I got to also set the name and the age, right? Set the name and the age. So I'm going to use this method for that. So I'm going to say, too bad that you can't make this thing bigger. Set name and set age. Set name is equal to whatever it was supposed to be equal to, and course student dot set age is set to whatever is supposed to be set equal to 20 and Smith and 20. Okay. All right, very good. Okay, so that's that. It's 3:33. And okay, base. Now we're going to do accessing base class attributes. Derived class. A derived class can access the attributes of all of its base classes via normal attribute reference operations. I refer to, okay, so for the search for an attribute continues all the way up the inheritance tree. Okay, so it starts with the most, the most derived. Okay, so item, for example, item one. Okay, so we have an item, we've created an instance of something, and this is going to set the name just like in the thing we just in the challenge exercise we just did. It might refer to set name method attribute of a class from which item one was derived. And in the example we just in the challenge exercise we just did, this was the case. The attribute reference is resolved using the search procedure that first checks the instance's namespace, then the class's namespace, then the namespaces of any base classes. So that's how you can override these things. So this is a pretty complicated example, but we've got a class that's called transport mode, and it simply has a name and a speed, and then a way to display out some stuff. We have a thing called a motor vehicle and a thing called a motorcycle, and a motor vehicle is derived from a transport mode class. So it's got not only it has these two things in this, but it also has MPG and fuel gallons of fuel it holds, I guess. And then it's got an add fuel method and a drive method. And then we have another class called motorcycle, which is actually derived from motor vehicle. So it's not derived from transport mode, it's derived from motor vehicle. And so a motorcycle has got all the things that motor vehicle has. It's got all the things that transport mode has, but it also has a method called wheelie. Okay, so scooter is a motorcycle, which has got a name and it's got a looks like it's got a speed and it's got a miles per gallon. Dirt bike is a motorcycle also. So this prints out the scooter info, this prints out the dirt bike info. Select a scooter or a dirt bike. What does dirt bike do? No, oh, I see this. So this adds fuel to the motors, to the a bike. See, so bike is a scooter. Okay, so this is going to ask the user whether you want a scooter or a dirt bike, and this is going to assign bike to be equal to a scooter. It's going to create an instance. No, it's going to set bike equal to either this thing or this thing. It's not going to create a new instance. This is where the instance is created. This just says this is the same as this instance, or it's the same as this. Is the operator. And then so this adds fuel. Doesn't matter whether it's the dirt bike or the scooter. Distance, they're both motorcycles, so this wheelie command, the wheelie method is there. See, so this so this shows the execution from this code. We see we're looping and we're asking the user for a command. It outputs menu, so select. So each time so this is asking the user for a command. So is this. So is this, so is this, and so on. So it loops 5 times, each time depending on what the user entered in here, G, 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 F, it's going to execute one of these. All right, so you should go through that, see that you understand it. So here you can carry it a little bit farther, and we're supposed to add, it's this code. We're supposed to add an airplane class, and derived from transport mode, and then we're supposed to define a jet plane class, which is derived from this airplane. So that's what we're supposed to do here. All right, so that's base class. Now here we talk about overriding, where if there's a method in a base class, but then a derived class has exactly the same method name, that a method with exactly the same name as the base class method. That's what I was talking. This is what I was talking about before. It's the derived classes version of the method that is used. Derived class may define a method having the same name as a method in the base class. Such a member function overrides the method in the base class. So here we've got this produce item that is derived from this item. And if you create an instance of a produce item, if you want to set the quantity, this one works. If you want to set it the name, this one works. If you want to set it the expiration, this one works. If you want to display, then it's not this one that's used, it's this one that's used, because this one overrides this one. So that's pretty simple. Pretty obvious. And I guess this is how you would call, if you didn't want the overridden one, you just wanted the you wanted to use the base class method, then you can do it this way. So this method calling the overridden method of the base class. Because the attribute references search in the inheritance tree, starting with the derived class and recursively searching down the base classes, the method will always be the method defined in the instances class. The programmer may often want to extend rather than replace the base class method. So the base class method can be explicitly called at the start of the method. So here you're extending it. So this is the overriding method. And the first thing it does is it calls the base class method version, and that executes. And then after that, it adds on this extra thing here where it's actually printing out some expiration. Okay, let's make sure you understand that. Let's see, this is a challenge activity. Define a member print all for this class. Make use of the base class, this all. So for pet data, we add the ID to it. That's it. Okay, so so we have animal data, which is full name and years, and then we've got this print all that prints out the name and the age, the animal, and then we have this new class called pet data, which is derived from animal data. And what we do is we add an ID number to it, and this is how you set it. And so here we want to create a print all. So we do a def print all. Let's get our fingers in the right keys. Print all. See, I want to make it be like this. So it's got the self and the item. Okay. So we got a self. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do animal data print all. So the first thing we're going to do is first thing we're going to do is animal data print all. And then after that, we're going to print the ID. And why don't we do it like this? So many different ways to print in Python, isn't there? Okay, so I actually want to print, oh, I'll do it this way. I like this way better. ID colon self dot ID now. Oops. So that's what I think it is. Let's see. I did something wrong. Print all, print all. How does it work up here? Oh. Is that what it told me? Okay, so I guess I gotta do this. All right, there we go. Okay. Is a versus has a. Okay, it's 3:45. This class goes to 4:15, right? Okay, so the concept of inheritance is often confused with composition. Composition is the idea that one object may be made up of other objects, and for instance, a mother class may be made up of objects like name. Mother, a class called mother may be made up of objects like name, children. Defining a mother class does not involve inheritance, but rather composing sub-objects in the class. So the has a relationship, a mother object is like this, and a mother object has a string object and has child objects, but no inheritance is involved. All right, well, I'm not quite sure I explained that very carefully. And is a mother object. Okay, so here the mother object is defined, is a kind of person. It's derived from person. The mother class thus inherits the person's class, likewise for the child class. So that's inheritance. Whereas this just says it has, it's similar to child. See, okay, so the mother, okay, yeah, so the mother has children is going to be a list of child objects. So it's going to be a list of instances of this. So that's a good way of explaining has a. So mother is a class, and if you create an instance of a mother, you have this object called that's a mother object. But the mother object has a list inside of it, and this can be a list of children objects, instances of child, of instances of a child. So there's not really any inheritance going on. It's just that this is contained in this, or this has a this. Whereas inheritance, it's different. It's where here mother is actually inheriting the properties of a person here. So, all right, is a versus has. Okay, mixing. Class can inherit from more than one base class. It's called multiple inheritance. And the derived class inherits all the class attributes in methods of every base class. So how does this work? How do you, here we go. See, we have this vampire bat class, and it inherits everything from here and everything from here. So there you go. Testing your code. Okay, so here a critical part of software development is testing a program, testing that a program behaves correctly. So here they're talking about, and the auto grader actually works this way also, where because of modules, well, because of, let's see, a programmer commonly performs unit testing, testing the individual components of the program, such as specific methods, classes, and interfaces, and so on. The Python test library unit test module implements unit testing functionality. So you can import this and use the methods to test the functionality of different units in your code and so on. So that's not what I was started talking about, but that's not what this is. But what I started talking about is not what this is. All right, so so go through this. I'm not sure we're gonna use this for anything though. All right, so let's so I want to do some lab exercises here while we're here. Let's see which ones we need to do for this class, and it is we can just look here. 13, 10, and 13, 11. Okay, let's do 13, 10. A base class called pet has attributes of name and age. The derived class dog inherits attributes from the base class pet and includes a breed attribute. So it's a pet that also has a breed attribute. So first of all, create a generic pet and then print the pet's information using print info. You then create a dog pet using print info to print the dog's information and add a statement to print the dog's breed attribute. So here we are, wait, have I always been, well, we haven't always been able to do that, have we? All right, that's great that we can now. So here's the pet info, here's the dog. Oh, it's all here already. Oh, so I just need to add create a generic pet using pet name, pet age, and call print info. I see. Okay, so create a generic pet using pet name and pet age, and then call print info. Okay, so, oh, I see. We're going to input all these things. I'm going to put some fake data in here. So let's use this fake data. And create a generic pet using pet name and pet age. Oh, I see, using the ones we read in here. Okay, so create a generic pet. I don't know, generic pet is equal to, wait, no, never mind. Oh, I've got to use this, don't I? Yeah, see, this doesn't tell you that, doesn't tell you what you're supposed to, it doesn't tell you you're supposed to use these, but you are. I looked at the solution, it uses those. So, so this generic pet, just plain old pet, is just my pet. And that's going to be, my pet dot name is equal to pet name, what I just read in, and my pet dot age is going to be the age I just read in. And then create a dog pet using dog name and dog. Okay, so and then call print info. Print info. My pet print what's called info. Okay, so that's this. I created a the generic pet was already created, and I used pet name to name it, to age it, to say what the age is, and then print the information out using this. And then create a dog pet. So I've done that, and then using dog name, dog age, and dog breed, dog name, dog age, and dog breed. So it's simply dog name, my dog. Yeah, my dog name is equal to dog name. My dog age is equal to dog age. And my dog breed is equal to dog breed. Okay, and then I'm supposed to print out my dog print info. And then I have to print out the breed. And I want to print it out so it looks nice, I guess. Like that. So it's 2 spaces in. No. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's 3 spaces in. Well, I'm just going to do this. Breed. Self. My dog breed. Oh, this should be down here. So when I run it, it looks just like this up here. All right, so you can go ahead and submit it. And if there's any errors, you should be able to figure it out. All right, what's 1311? It's the next one, right? This one. All right, overriding member methods. So here we're overriding member methods. So we have a book. Given the base class called book, define a derived class called encyclopedia. Within the derived class, define a print info method which overrides the book's print info by printing not only the title, the author, the publisher, and the publication date, but also the edition and the number of volumes. Okay, so I guess it's first going to ask about a book. And then it's going to ask about an encyclopedia. And so these first four are the same attributes as these first 4. But then we have the second edition and only 1 volume. And so, so we just have to use the same print info for book as for encyclopedia. We use the same print info as book, but then we add these 2 additional print lines down here to the 2 extra attributes. So we've got the book, which has got title, author, publisher, and publication date, and the info. And we have class encyclopedia, which should have the constructor for the this. And then we also going to have a print info that overrides, that can use this print info and add 2 more lines to it. So I got to make sure I get this in this. I got to make sure I get the syntax for defining the subclass thing. Okay, here it is. It looks like this. Okay, I'm just going to copy this right over here, just because I want to get that right. So I'm going to do a class encyclopedia, and let me just, because I'm lazy. Okay, so it's that. It's going to be self-init this, and self-init. This is going to be book. dot self init, but it's got to have all these other things. I think it's like this. I think all of this has to go in here. And let me just. Yes. So it does look like that. And I need to do self addition. Equals addition. And self number of volumes equals number of volumes. And then I gotta create another print info, and I'm going to print info. I'm going to, does this say book info? This is all exactly the same. It's only those last two. So, well, the solution is different. I'm going to try to do this. Def print info self. And can I do this book print info? I'm gonna and then print and we're printing the addition, self addition, and the volumes, number of volumes. And this is going to be num volumes. Now I'm going to run this and see what happens. I might get an error because I might not have the using the base classes print info first. That might not work. This might be set to be self or something. But anyway, this is the data, and I'm going to just run it on development, see if I get an error. Oh, I might have gotten it right. Okay, so I think I got it right. Let me, I wanted to check, because really what we're doing is we're overriding, aren't we? I'm going to open this up in a new tab. And here, this is what I wanted to do. Yes, okay, so I wanted a method calling overridden method of base class. So yeah, so I wanted to, this is in the derived class. I wanted to call the base class display method and then add to it on the bottom, which is what I did. So I called the base class. This is based on book, called the base class print info. And then I added this onto the bottom. And when I run it in development mode, I get what looks like the correct answer. So you can take this and submit it, and hopefully you'll get all the points. Okay, well, that takes care of the labs in chapter 13. You have any questions?
So when do you use the override, basically? Like, just
Well, you use the override if you want to, you know, have a method be different. You know, you derive a new class, and you could do something like, so you have a book class. Well, let me share my screen again. I'm not sharing my screen again. So you have this book class, and the class is used to create instances of an object. So you create an instance of a book, and you assign it some values, some attribute values, and so on. And then you want to print it out, and so you can call this method. So let's say you have a book called Peanuts, and so it's Peanuts equals book, and then maybe you have a title and an author, so on. And then you want to print out the information. You would say peanuts.printinfo. And then you want to create something, like bigger than a book, an encyclopedia. And so an encyclopedia is just like a book. According to this, an encyclopedia is just like a book, except for it's got two extra attributes that are important. And that is the addition and the number of volumes. And so with encyclopedia, when you want to do a print info, in this case, you don't want to use just the book's print info, because there's two more pieces of information that are not included in the book's print info, because it's addition and number of volumes is not in books. It's not an attribute of a book in general. It's an attribute of an encyclopedia. And let's say that we want to print out, when we print out the information, we want to use the same name, the method. We want to use the same named method, because it's easier for us to remember. Okay, print underscore info means print out the information about that object. And so even though this class is derived from the book class, the book class's print info is not quite enough. So we want to write our own. Now, the textbook solution is just copy this print info and copy it, paste it here, and add these last two things on it. That works. This print info will override this print info when we're talking about encyclopedias. When we're talking about encyclopedias, these all still apply, but not this, because this is overridden by this. And so this is one way to do it. And what I did was I just took advantage of this thing that we learned in section 3.3, where we can, if my new display, or my new print info is actually the same as the derived classes print info, except for I'm just adding some more onto the bottom, well, I just might as well use this. And so that's why I can just put that there. And then that'll effectively execute this, print out all these 5 lines, and then after this is done printing, then I print these 2 things. So that answered more than your question, but the answer to your question is if you have a derived class, you're creating a derived class, and you want to use the same method name as a method that's in the base class, like print info. You could say print info 2, or you can call it print information, or you could call it print encyclopedia information or something. And then you would still have direct access to this base class print info. But we don't even care about the base class. If we're talking about an encyclopedia, we don't even really care about this method anymore because this method isn't enough for us. We want this method plus something in addition to that. So we're just gonna rename it. You know, I mean, we're just gonna write our own print info, and we're gonna name it the same as this one, and then that way, you know, we will never mistakenly call this method when really we want to call this method. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I have another question. Is cPanel used in data analytics? Like, I notice.
Well, no, well, cPanel is just a platform to write code, just like Windows is a platform to write code, or just like even this thing is a platform to write code. cPanel is let's see. I guess cPanel is kind of like the operating system. cPanel is kind of like a Windows is to DOS, and you know the Linux command line, the terminal. You know, you can run these programs using the terminal program here, and you can execute programs. We do that, right? That's what we do. So this is like DOS, but then this cPanel itself is kind of like the Windows, and your server, you know, this is my version. This is it's a multi-processing time shared kind of system. It's one machine. I lease this machine. It's up in Canada or someplace, and I'm able to create all these accounts. I'm able to create a couple hundred accounts on this machine, and so I give all you guys one, and it's your own isolated machine. But your cPanel, you know, you could in the future go work at a company and be doing a lot of internet-based stuff. We aren't really doing any web-based stuff here, but we could. In fact, cPanel is designed more for a web server, but it's just that cPanel allows you to access all the stuff. I mean, a whole bunch more stuff than just the web server part. But these, you know, these files and so on, like the file manager, if you go into public HTML and you create a file here and you say, you know, hello dot, you know, HTML, let's say, and you create a new file and you go in here and you edit it and you just say, you know, you say boldly hello world and save it. Okay, now when you go to your base website, and for me it's richardh.its148.com. Now, because I put it in this public HTML, which is, you know, like right here, because I put it in here, then it appears here because this is what's displayed. And when I click on this, there's my file. You see, so and we can write Python programs where you click on something and a Python program executes. And we're going to be doing that later. So this is really how, you know, cPanel started as a way for companies like HostGator and Bluehost and these companies to offer, you know, web services. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. There's email account. You know, you can experiment around with this too. I'm not sure I hook up all the things that you need to do all these things, but I probably most of them will work. And you know, there's databases and so on. So when you sign up for a web server at some company, you'll get something like this. And most people they set up email accounts and they put some web pages up and everything and put some databases. That's all fine. But what I'm using it for in this class is this is a Linux machine underneath. And learning how to write Python on Linux is a great thing for you to learn how to do. And also I'm able to hook my auto grader up to this, and I'm able to grade your stuff by the same way that ZyBooks grades it. And it's easy for me to go in and test stuff. And then you guys get experience. You have to start learning some Linux commands. You gotta, the Linux commands, just like DOS commands, and then you get experience with that. And if you go on a job interview and say, well, have you ever done anything on Linux? Oh yeah, we had a professor that had us do all of our Python programming on a Linux machine, and that's kind of a good thing to be able to say. So that's what Cpanel is. It's just like this front end, or this thing that sits on top of the Linux machine and allows you to sort of manage your account files and everything by using a web interface. This PHP My Admin is great because this is a database management system, and it's a web-based thing. And it's here you can do all kinds of things that the database administrator can do on a MySQL database. Here you can create MySQL databases and so on. So, and we're going to experiment around with some of this stuff, and actually in 228, in ITS 228, we get more into databases. But yeah, the Dale Nakasone, the database and data analytics guy, he's trying out using Cpanel. I've told him, hey, you should get your students to use this, and then if it really works good, we can get KCC to set something up. See, I'm able to provide this because I got a side business where I have to have a couple of servers, and there's no traffic on them. Okay, but they got to be separate servers, and there's no traffic on them, and these two clients pay for it. And so I got all this extra space, and what the heck, they don't care. I say, well, I'm gonna use it to help educate my students. So I started doing it with my database class. I teach the database class over in the ICS department in Manoa, and I was using this for that for a long time. But then when we started teaching Python, I thought it would be good if we learn Python on all the different platforms that there are. And so you're learning them on Windows, and if you've got a Mac, you can easily write Python on a Mac, and you can write it on Linux also. So anyway, any other questions?
I guess I'm doing good. All right.
All right, very good. Well, we'll see you next week, and thanks for coming.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right. Bye.